Hello everyone, and welcome to this video on how to use C1, Competency 1, and strategies to get students to actually talk in your class. So before we get started, I just want to ask you this question and have you think about it for a second. What are some of the reasons why students don't talk in class? What are some of the things that stop them from interacting or speaking? Okay, hopefully you said a few of the following. Sometimes students don't feel they're good enough. Maybe they're scared of other people making fun of them. They don't have the language. They don't actually, or they're not actually even interested. So what I've done is I've divided this into four main areas that we need to pay attention to when we're designing C1 cooperative, C1 interaction activities for speaking. So the first one is we need to pay attention to students' feelings of competence. Now, if we create activities where they feel, yes, I can actually do this, they're more likely to participate. Feelings of interest, that they actually want to do this. This is something that's actually interesting and fun. Feelings of security. So if I do this activity, then my friends and the peers and my peers and the teacher won't make fun of me. I won't look stupid in front of everybody else. And finally, feelings of belonging. So in order to get this done, my friends need me to do this. They can't play the game if I'm not participating. They can't complete the task if I'm not there. All right, so you've noticed I've color coded these. So take a look as we go through the video because you'll see where each of these feelings come in. All right, so how do we do this? How do we address all of these four areas? Well, here's some of the teaching strategies that we can use when we're doing interaction in English. The first big strategy is to use small groups or even just pair work, sorry. And this really appeals to students' sense of security and belonging, because especially in a pair, if the other partner doesn't participate, you can't complete the task. Security, you're only working with one other person or two other people, so you're not looking stupid in front of the whole class. Another main strategy we're going to use is provide a language support. And we'll get into that in a minute. But if you have the vocabulary and the expressions and you've practiced it together, it helps students feel like they can actually succeed and that they're not going to look stupid because we've all practiced this together. We know what to do. We've had lots of modeling. Yeah, so along with that is practicing the key expressions as a class. So if you're working on expressions for introduction, not only will you model, but you'll also practice together. Hi, my name is. Everybody, hi, my name is. Everybody, hi, etc. And again, it works on feelings of competence. I can do this, and security. I can do this because I've done it lots of times. Providing visual cues, so having pictures and words on the walls, on handouts, and in your materials really helps with security. They have something to refer to. Using cooperative learning structures, again, really fits into belonging. And also, let's face it, kids love to work cooperatively in teams, so it's a lot more interesting. And finally, gamification. And gamification hits a lot of those. Interest, belonging, and security. Kind of forget sometimes when we're playing games that we're actually learning. All right, so let's have a look at each one of these strategies one by one. So the first one is structuring your speaking activities so that students are in small groups and pairs. And again, this touches on security and belonging. So our strategy is to do speaking activities or competency 1 frequently, a couple times every class. And these should be short activities, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes tops, not full on all class activities. If you do these frequently and short, research will back me up on this one, there's actually greater progress for the students. Some examples of these kind of activities are ask and answer questions. So the teacher asks a question to the class and then the partners ask each other, check their answers and come back. Think, pair, share. Guess who, guess what. I've got this up here, this placemat, which I found online, with just simple questions. And you can just ask the kids to turn to each other and ask those. Those are 5-minute activities. Okay, so the second thing we want to work on is language support. And I've got my toolbox here because this is giving them the tools so that they know what language to use and how to use it. If you were asked to speak in Japanese or German or I don't know, any other language you can name, and the teacher said, okay, go ahead and turn around and introduce yourself. If you didn't have the vocabulary or you didn't know the sort of expressions that we use to do that, you wouldn't be able to do it. So it's really important before we start any kind of activity to just really quickly review functional language or key expressions. This is the functional language and key expressions for opinions, for example. So before I would ask my students to turn to their partner, I would just say, okay, guys, can you remember what we need to use or what we need to say for asking opinions? And maybe have it on the board. We'll talk about that. I think that. What do you think? I disagree. I'll tell my students, we'll practice it, and then I'll tell them that I'm going around and I'm going to be listening to hear them say that. Is there any specific vocabulary that they need to use or practice in order to get their message across? Are there any strategies you can teach them? So for example, if they don't know a word, what can they do to get around it? And is there a specific grammar point that they'll need? So are you asking and giving advice? So you might want to touch on modals. So make sure that they have all the tools in place before they start interacting. Of course, the next strategy is to practice key expressions. And this is with your teacher modeling. So the teacher provides a model of what to say and how to do it. And then the teacher will hopefully pick a really strong student to model that out together. So I do, we do, and then you do. So you send them off into their teams afterwards. Teacher model, I do. Teacher with a student or a group of students, we do. And then students on their own with their partners, you do. Speaking of competence and security, rather than asking students to do an oral presentation in front of the whole class, which is not only nerve-wracking for students in their first language, it's nerve-wracking for anybody in front of their peers. Even teachers get nervous talking in front of groups. Consider doing something like a science presentation format. So instead of having one student standing and talking in front of the whole class, have groups of students arranged around the room talking about their topic, and have half the kids around the room and the other half visiting each station and asking questions and maybe filling out a form and interacting that way. And you can circulate and listen to the students as they interact with each other. That way also everyone's active and people aren't texting and falling asleep while they're listening to someone else's oral presentation. Okay. Another key strategy is to provide visual cues for the students to refer to. And this can take the form of posters around the room, materials in your activity book, or even handouts. So if you are with models on it. So if you're creating materials to support students as they're working through C1 activities, make sure they have the visual cues, the language models that they can refer to. Finally, we need to plan activities that require students to complete a concrete, specific task. And if you do that, so you say, okay, we have 5 minutes to guess the clown. Here's your sheets of paper, and here are the questions that we're going to ask. We practiced it and model it. You have 5 minutes, sit with your partner, guess which one is the mystery clown, or find the information in a survey, conduct a survey. Those are the famous walk around the class and find someone who owns a dog or has been to another country or eats pistachio ice cream. And you have 10 minutes to do that. So a concrete, specific task, fill something in, get something done in a specific time. The next strategy, of course, is to use gamification. I love activities like Go Fish. Go Fish is a great one for just practicing question words. If you're in a small group playing Go Fish, you don't realize that you're practicing the question words in English. You're just having fun playing a card game. So you do that to lower anxiety and also to increase interest. Again, reminder, so activities that are short, that doesn't mean you can't do longer activities, but ones that are shorter will lower anxiety and also increase interest and feelings of competence. Try and plan activities that allow students to practice over and over and over again. So the science fair is a really good example of that, because the first time a group of students will visit one student's science fair booth, the student will probably be a little nervous and not be able to say a few things, but after the fourth or fifth or sixth person comes and asks them more or less the same questions, they've pretty much got that language down pat. Speed dating is another structure that works really well for this. So you have students facing each other, um, and they have 3 minutes to explain their favorite activity or talk about a book or summarize or sell an idea, and then they switch. So they're doing it 5, 6, 7, 8 times with different peers. Also, this is also known as inside-outside circles. Also plan activities that allow students to use other expertise. So a student may not be great at speaking in English, but they may be a fantastic musician. So if they can talk about their music or their ability to play video games or, I don't know, play basketball, who knows, or draw, then it gets them in their comfort zone because they are an expert in something that they enjoy. It's also talks about their interest too. Finally, make sure that you plan activities that are at the right level. So you'll know pretty quickly if you've planned something that's too high level. But make sure the activities are easy enough, but not too easy, because if it's too easy, students won't take it seriously. And believe it or not, they like a little bit of a challenge.